Hello, Dain.
Hi, Lilou. How are you today?
Very good. I'm excited to have you on Skype today. Thank you for accepting this invitation.
Thank you so much. It's truly a pleasure to be speaking with you.
So I'm thrilled because I've seen the cover of your book in many houses as I was doing the Juicy Living tour and interviewing people and meeting co-creators. And finally I connected the dots when I received this email from Justin. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the guy I've been wanting to connect with. So I'm thrilled.
Wonderful.
I love the title of your book, Being You, You the Change. Is that right? Being You.
Yeah, it's Being You, Changing the World is what it's called.
I love it. So I want to hear all about it. I know you used to be a chiropractor and you had really big suicidal thoughts, and you talk about this access consciousness and being in the present moment. I want to hear all about it. Tell us in a nutshell what this book is about and why you decided to write it. What is it, your latest one? Because I know you wrote many other ones.
Yeah, well, basically 13 years ago, I was literally at a place where I was going to kill myself if things didn't change. And I'd been trying all kinds of things to change my life. Anything anybody said, oh, this worked for me, I would go and I would try it. And, and I would go to weekend workshops and I'd be like, yay, finally, I've got it solved, yes. And by Wednesday, I was in the soup again. I was depressed and unhappy and feeling like I couldn't make my life work. And I said, universe, you got 6 months. Either my life changes or I'm killing myself, and I don't care which it is. And so I came across something literally a week later called Access Consciousness. I had one session, and I'd never heard of this stuff before. And I had one session, and literally I felt this sense of space and peace and ease, and it never left. And I never contemplated killing myself again. So literally this one session saved my life. But what I didn't realize at the time was there were all kinds of tools that Access Consciousness had available. And what this book is about is how it's actually giving you the tools to be that ease that you can be when you're really on, when you're feeling connected to source or whatever it is for you that is that connection, and how to actually have it and be it, and how to actually live it. So it really is about how you being that creates the change that's possible in the world, because other people then know it's possible.
So is it about something along the lines that the more we resist, the less change is easy and the less we're being ourselves? Is it something to do with that?
Well, there's definitely that. And there's also, what it is there's an invitation in it to remember what it was like when in those times in your life when you've been you. When you had a sense of ease with everything that was going on, where you had a sense of joy and where you felt like, hey, everything is okay. And, if enough, and it's not just that, but it's also, if you've ever, let's say people were in a state of judgment about something. If you've ever been around somebody where everybody else was judging, but there was one voice that was like, no, we don't have to judge. No, we don't have to do it this way. Let's come together in a different way. It's really about being able to be that, being able to choose that as your life, not just sometimes, when you're meditating or when you're in a cave or when you're on vacation, but like, how do you be that moment by moment, day by day? And it's literally the tools for making that happen. Because for me, one of the things that I was missing was the tools. It was like, I always wanted to feel better. I always wanted to feel happier and nicer, and feel good about things and also be a contribution to other people. But I never had tools to make it happen. So throughout this book are all kinds of tools and all kinds of invitations to actually having that as a reality.
But is it really about the tools, or is it just about being who we are, and then things really, when we're aligned, things really just shift?
Yes, exactly. It's both. Because the thing is, what it is it is all about being who you are. And when you're aligned, things shift. And yet in the world in which we live, there's so many times where we feel unaligned. And so this is, how do you actually have a real simple way of getting back into that alignment, really? I'm glad you said that, because that is more what it's about.
So let's take an example. When somebody loses their job or there's a divorce, what happens there, and what is your recommendation when there's this big challenge that comes in your life, even with a disease or something? Like this big bad news kind of just jumps at us and give us a big slap on the face.
Yeah, that when the big slap comes, what do you do? Well, one of the first things that I suggest people do is start to ask questions. Because when we get a big slap, usually we have all kinds of conclusions about it, all kinds of points of view about how bad it is. But if you can ask a question, something like, hey, how does it get any better than this? What's right about this thing I'm not getting? And what's it going to take to change this into something better? And one other question, and both of the things you mentioned, you talked about a job and you also talked about divorce. I've worked with so many people where literally, like I worked with one lady as an example, and she called me because she was so distraught because she'd just been fired from her job. And I went, cool. And she went, what do you mean cool? I said, isn't that the same job that a year ago you told me you hated, but you didn't have the courage to leave? I said, you got yourself fired. Now you don't have to worry about it. Cool. Let's get some champagne and celebrate. And she was like, you are the weirdest man I know. I'm like, I know. But literally, she realized that what happened was she had actually asked for it over a year before that. It just took that long for the universe to make it show up. And in the case of divorce also, a lot of times people have already left the relationship long before they get divorced. It just is that they're not willing to sort of have that courage to leap off the cliff and know that the universe will provide and that they can provide themselves something even greater.
So for you, what is the process in manifestation then? How between the moment that we have these thoughts and things that we have thoughts for or we desire in our life but doesn't come along right away and takes longer, how does all this manifest and work out for you? How do you see this? Because a lot of people talk to the law of attraction. I feel more and more people are talking about living their highest potential now anyway. So and free will, there's all these things. So how do you view it? What's your view on that?
One of the things is that you want to have the awareness that what's true makes you feel lighter and a lie makes you feel heavier. So what happens is if you look and you go, okay, so is there something wrong here? And if it makes you feel heavier, then it's not that there's something wrong. It's just that the change you're asking for is showing up in a totally different way than you thought it would. And one of the other things you want to look at, see, from my point of view, we're infinite beings. And so what does that mean? Well, we often don't function that way. It's like our lives don't look that way a lot of times for a lot of us, but we'd like them to. But if you can have the awareness that you actually have far more capacity than you've ever given yourself credit for, then it just becomes a matter of how do you access that capacity and what does it take? And some people will do meditation, some people will do chanting, some people do, the list of things to access it is endless, and yet what you want is something that always leads to more lightness. In my spiritual search, if you will, it was like I did so many things, and yet after doing them, I would feel heavier because I would then judge that I was doing the wrong thing and I didn't do the right thing. It's like, wow, this is not any fun, And I realized that the more joy you're willing to have, the more fun you're willing to have in life, and the more you're willing to contribute that to other people, the more you change the world.
So what are some of those techniques then?
So one, there's
the questions.
Asking the questions is a huge one. Like, for example, one question that I alluded to before is, how does it get any better than this? You want to ask it when something good happens, or you want to ask it when something bad happens. Wow. So when something bad happens, it'll make it better, but when something good happens, it'll make it even better. Because what happens for a lot of people is they ask for something, they're like, oh my gosh, I'd really like this and this and this, and it shows up, and then they go, oh, okay, cool, thank you. Well, what if you went, thank you, and universe, how does it get any better than this?
So it's deeper than gratitude. It's the next step after gratitude.
Yeah, exactly. It's gratitude and creation again at the same time. And the thing is, gratitude is one of the greatest things there is, as you know, and it's this amazing thing where the more grateful you are, the more possibilities show up, and the more you're willing to have more possibilities show up, the more you have to be grateful for. So literally this one question, how does it get any better than this, can change your whole world. I've had people who send me emails saying, this is the only thing I remember out of all the stuff you talked to me about, and it is changing my life. And there was one lady who got this tool, and she was in a class in New York, and she went outside of the class and she saw a dime sitting on the ground, and she picked it up and go, ooh, how does it get any better than this? And so she walked and she went to the elevator and went down and got out of the elevator, and there was a $10 bill sitting on the ground. And she picked it up and she goes, wow, how does it get any better than this?
I love it.
I know, right? Isn't that cool? But because she had $10, she's like, well, I'm going to flag down a taxi. I'm not waiting for the subway. And so she gets in the taxi, gets off, and the taxi lets her off in front of her building. The subway, she would have just gone in the back entrance like normal. And so she's going to get out of the taxi in front of her building, and she sees something sparkling in the gutter. What do you think it was?
Diamond.
It was a diamond bracelet, literally. And guess what she said? She went, "Oh, it doesn't get any better than this." No! I'm like, how do you do that? You were on such a roll. Why would you stop now? But that one thing, I'm not saying it'll take you from dimes to diamonds, but if you start asking questions in your life rather than coming to conclusion, you start opening up different doorways of possibility. Because what most of us do, we decide this is the way it is. Like, for example, in losing the job. We decide, oh, this is a bad thing, it's a terrible thing. But if you ask a question, like, how does it get any better than this? Or what's right about this I'm not getting? It's like, what happens is when you make that conclusion, you're headed in one direction and that's it. And it's like you have walls to the left and the right, and you can't see around them, you can't see over them, you can't see through them, you can't see between them. And when you ask a question, it's like doors open up to the left and right, and they have space and possibilities that you never saw before. So truly, the question is actually the key to opening up these other doorways of possibility.
And then and asking the body too for healing. Do you believe this is something we can do?
Absolutely. And asking our body, see, one of the things that I found is, I'm a chiropractor also, or used to be, I guess, because I don't really do that much anymore. But one of the things I found is that you want to actually ask your body for everything that concerns it. So for example, you go, body, what would you like to eat? Because going back to that idea, that concept that you're an infinite being, well, you as an infinite being aren't the one eating, your body is. And you should have a connection with your body. It should be a great connection so you can listen to it and you can hear what it wants and what it needs and what it requires, but also realize you're an infinite being, your body's your body, so ask your body for everything that concerns it. Like, body, what would you like to eat? Body, what kind of movement would you like to do? Don't say exercise, because it hears, that movie with Linda Blair, The Exorcist? Your body doesn't seem to like that one very much, Exactly. So when you say exercise, it's like, I don't want you to leave. I don't want an exorcism. But your body loves to move. So ask it also, like, body, what types of clothes would you like to wear? And the interesting thing is, when you do this, you start to develop a communion, a connection with your body that's this beautiful thing. And then you can ask it for anything that you would like, and your body will give it to you. What most of us are walking around, we walk around with very little connection with our bodies, very little awareness of them, but tons of judgment of them. So my suggestion is, when you notice yourself judging your body, just stop. See a hand in front of you. See a stop sign and stop and go, wait a minute. What if I had gratitude for my body right now? What else would be possible? And then you can also ask it to start changing in other ways. Like, there was a lady who got this tool about asking her body, and she had been doing diets, doing yo-yo dieting for a number of years. And she said, body, okay, I'm going to ask you finally, what is it going to take to lose this weight? And she didn't get any answer, but 3 weeks later, she was walking in Central Park in New York, and she heard these people talking about a diet, and her body just about jumped over the park bench to get to it. And she started doing that. She literally lost 20 pounds in the next month and a half, and it stayed off.
So, because the most difficult thing for people when there's no money, no job, or no health is to actually, what else? As you said, your question, what greater can happen now? It's difficult to get to this point, and because once we start building it, it's cool. But the starting point is a huge one, and you constantly go back and forth, and there's a subconscious jumping in.
Yes. So for that, there's a tool that we have in Access that we call a clearing statement. And basically, it's like a magic wand to go back and undo all the stuck places, all the stuck points of view. And the short form for it is POC and POD. POC and POD, point of creation and point of destruction. And basically, it stands for asking the energy to go back to wherever you first created this seed of limitation that allowed it to blossom into a whole tree of limitation. And ask the seed to start going away. So literally what you can do, so can we do a little bit just for people who might be in that place?
Sure.
And literally, this has so many applications I can't even begin to tell you. But it's one of the tools that I've seen that when people use it, it literally starts changing their realities, because they know that nothing that they chose in the past that didn't work, they don't have to stick with any of it, because you can undo it. So let's do this. So all the judgments, all the projections, all the expectations, all the separations, all the judgments, and all the rejections that whoever listening has, that you can't do it, that you don't know how to take that first step, and that you'll probably always be in the space you are right now. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please? In other words, will you let it undo? And if that's a yes, right? And so then we just go pock and pod all that. And the long form for the clearing statement is lots of words that nobody understands the first time hearing it, but it's right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds, which is basically that pock and pod, but it's surrounded by all these other things so we can undo the judgments of things, good and bad, the points of view you have that will never change. All that sort of stuff is embodied in it, but the short form for it is pock and pod. So you can ask any question about anything you want to change, and pock and pod what's standing in the way of it changing. So, for example, you go, okay, so everywhere where you've decided that what's going on right now can't change, will you now undo it and let it go? Pock and pod all that. And literally, if you just go pock and pod all that, it's still accessing the energy of all those long words that I said, but it literally starts to change things. And I've had people who said, you know what? Once again, you said all kinds of stuff, you know, in the class I was in with you, and here's what I remembered. How does it get any better than this? In pock and pod. And so I wake up some mornings and I don't even know what I'm asking for, but I get all the energies, the way it feels all around me, and I go pock and pod all that, and 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 pock and pod, and pock and pod, and pock and pod, and I feel lighter, and I'm not even sure how. And I said, yeah, it's part of ask and you shall receive. The universe wants to support us. This is just a way of allowing that to happen. And all of that stuff is in the book.
Yeah. Is there some other little tiny things that are really important that you feel that are important to mention right now for any of those beautiful co-creators around the world to hear?
You know, yes.
I know there's lots, and I can't wait to sit down with you and have a longer interview.
I am very much looking forward to it. And so, number one, I want to say I love all you amazing co-creators around the world. Let us keep supporting Lilou, because what a gift. So that's number one. Number two is thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. You're showing people it's possible to have a different reality, you know, and I love that. What a gift. So here's another tool for people. One of the things that we found in Access Consciousness is that literally 98% of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions don't belong to you. They actually belong to people around you. You're picking them up like a big psychic radio receiver. Like if you've ever walked into a room and it felt really heavy, that's because you're aware of the energy of the room. There was nothing physically heavy in the room. It was all energetic. So literally, what you want to do is this. You want to ask, who does this belong to? So your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, any of the heavy ones that are there, you go, who does this belong to? And if it lightens up at all, it's not yours. Return it to sender. And you don't have to know who the sender was. You may not even know the person. The way it works is this. You know, you're having a really great day, and we've all had really great days. And we're like, yay, we're having such an awesome day. You know, this is wonderful. How does it get any better than this? You know, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're overcome with sadness or grief or anger or something. And you're like, wait a minute, because you were just having a great day. How did that get there? Well, it could have been somebody sitting next to you on the subway or driving next to you on the freeway, or somebody who's thinking of you, a family member who just went through a tragedy or something. And all of a sudden you're picking up the energy of it. So when you go, who does this belong to? If it lightens up at all, it's not yours. Just return it to whoever it belongs to. You don't even have to know who it is. And the beauty of it is, if it wasn't that person's, it'll go through them to whoever it really came from. So you're actually helping them get free of it too. And literally, if you were to do this, who does this belong to? To every thought, feeling, emotion, judgment, and heaviness you had for 3 days. At the end of 3 days, you'd walk around like you're in a walking, talking meditation. It's one of the quickest ways to clear your head of the monkey mind and all the yuck that a lot of people function from.
Beautiful. How do you see enlightenment, just to close this beautiful conversation?
Well, for me, my aim, my target is actually to create consciousness in people's lives and in the world. And consciousness is, we have a definition of consciousness in Access Consciousness, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged. And what I would say is, if you would allow yourself to go beyond judgment, to start exploring and embracing the possibilities that are actually true for you, and have the, once again, have the tools to make it happen, it's like you truly are the creator of a different reality. And you watch the Juicy Living tour and you get inspired. Why? Because you're that type of person that knows that the world can be greater and can be different. You're also the type of person, you're the only type of person who would ever judge you, and you think you're judgmental, but you're actually not. The only person you ever judge is you. What if you could go beyond those self-judgments and realize that there's a beauty to you that when you tap into it will truly change our world? And what if you realize that you, truly being you, is the gift and the change this world requires?
I say yes to that. I can't wait to read
Awesome.
your book.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Dain. It was so great. I look forward to seeing you in person. I wish you much fun in California and Texas area. I know you live in Texas, but you travel a lot all the time. We crossed paths, I think, in Italy. I just came back from Venice, and you were at Rome.
Yes. So I hope to meet you in person someday. I hope we can do it in person.
Our path with cross. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Lilou.